Something strange appeared, a wooden board that clearly didn't belong there. But who would go through all that trouble to hide something? And why? Those questions immediately began to stir in the minds of the team. Stay tuned, because what they uncovered was so startling that it made the President of the United States send the military and close the island to outsiders. The board, that odd, out-of-place object, wasn't just a random piece of old timber. Most people would have ignored it. After all, to the casual eye, it was just some weathered wood. But Rick and the team knew better. Boards like that don't just show up at such depths unless someone deliberately put them there. That little piece of timber might be the beginning of something huge. And let's be honest, on an island that has swallowed treasure hunters for over 200 years, nothing is just anything. Every anomaly has the potential to lead to something monumental. Before they dug deeper, they realized that what they found under that board was far bigger than anyone had expected. And this discovery was only the beginning of the shocking truth buried on Oak Island. Emma Culligan, a woman who doesn't blink when the word ancient gets thrown around, was called in, and not because they needed her opinion on decoration or aesthetics. No, this was serious. They wanted to know if what they found was actually part of something built, perhaps even the infamous flood tunnel that was supposed to lead to the one and only money pit. That's the golden egg everyone's been chasing for generations. As the digging continued, things got weirder. The one board became two. I don't think it's anything post-1980s because it's missing modern concrete mix, Emma noted, examining the find closely. Then a beam appeared. Then concrete. Wait, what? Concrete doesn't belong here, at least not naturally. Not unless someone, long ago, poured it to plug up something they didn't want others to find. And this wasn't just any concrete. Emma's tests showed that the material contained Portland cement. It wasn't made last year. It was likely something that came from Quebec between the 1920s and the 1970s. That detail alone told them it wasn't nature's doing. It was human, intentional, strategic. Now, let's pause for a second and think. Who in their right mind brings cement out to a muddy, cursed island? Only someone desperate to cover something up. Or perhaps someone who found something and wanted to protect it. There was also a curious wall of rocks, not just scattered boulders, but lined up in a way that suggested someone had followed a blueprint. That's not how nature works. And buried beneath that wall were even more signs of a tunnel or chamber. Rick stood there, probably thinking what we all were. If this is the flood tunnel and it lines up with the old maps, then they might finally be staring at proof that something has been hidden here all along. After all the holes, the cash spent, and even some blood spilled chasing shadows, they might actually be onto something real. The craziest part? It got deeper. Literally. This structure wasn't just lying around for anyone to trip over. It was buried over 30 feet down. That's not the kind of thing you create with a weekend's worth of digging. This was the work of someone who had spent weeks or months building something they wanted to keep far away from prying eyes. In your experience, are you willing to say that this could be a camp? Someone asked. Yeah, some kind of encampment, came the reply. Back in the war room, Emma laid out her findings. She wasn't flashy, just the facts. The concrete was old but not ancient, and the sand and gravel matched local sources in Nova Scotia. That told them whoever made it was nearby, knew the land, and had the tools. The timeline fit with the Restall family's attempts to seal off the flood tunnel back in the 1960s. They were convinced they were this close to figuring it out. Maybe they were. Maybe what the team had found now was exactly what the Restalls left behind after trying to plug up the ocean itself. But here's where things get shady. If they were sealing off the tunnel, what exactly were they trying to hide or protect? If they knew exactly where the tunnel was, why did everything go silent afterward? Did someone stop them? Did they find what they were looking for? That question hung over the room like a storm cloud. Every clue, every rock, every old piece of wood seemed to whisper the same thing. There's something here, something someone didn't want anyone else to find. Then things took another turn. The concrete started pointing to something bigger than anyone had thought, a tunnel that refused to stay hidden. You'd think after decades of dead ends, they'd be used to false hope. But this time felt different. The pieces were finally clicking. The tunnel existed. The concrete was man-made. And now, the old maps lined up. Even nature couldn't fake that kind of coordination. The group didn't jump up or cheer loudly. That's just not who they are. They aren't the kind of people to make a big scene or act over the top. But if you looked closely at their faces, you'd see something much louder than any shout. Their eyes gave everything away. There was a fire in them, a deep, quiet strength. They weren't about to walk away. Not now. Not when the signs were lining up so clearly. Not when they might be standing only a few feet from something that had been hidden for hundreds of years. Not when every step forward felt like it could be the one that broke everything wide open, following a trail of clues. And that's where the big question comes in. Why? Why would anyone, whether one person or an entire group, go through all of this? Why would someone dig deep into the earth, carve out tunnels, allow water to flood through them, and then make things even harder by adding traps and covering everything with beams, rocks, and cement? That's not just hard work. That's a task that requires serious thinking, detailed planning, and a considerable amount of money. People don't do things like that without a very strong reason. And the only reason that really makes sense, when you consider the effort and danger involved, is that something valuable was hidden there. Not a mere symbol. Not a coded message. Not something meant only to teach a lesson. We're talking about something real, something you can hold in your hands. Something heavy, maybe gold, maybe jewels, maybe both. The kind of treasure people dream about their entire lives. Now, here's where things get tricky. If the Restall family really found one of the main tunnels back then, sealed it off, and then left without digging further, what are we supposed to think about that? What happened down there that made them stop? Did they get too close and panic? Were they warned off, maybe by someone who didn't want the truth uncovered? Or did they come this close, just inches away, and give up without realizing how close they were to something huge? Maybe they thought they were done, but in reality, they were just a breath away from finding what so many had searched for. Emma never said anything directly. She's the quiet type. She lets her facts do the talking. But her report made one thing very clear. She was able to narrow things down to a specific time frame. Somewhere between 1920 and 1970, someone left behind a path made of cement. Not dirt, not wood, not stone, cement. And that path, cold, solid, and man-made, could lead straight to something deeper and darker than anyone expected. Something that might be the answer to why so many people have kept returning to this island again and again for over 2 centuries. As they got closer to the truth, they knew they needed someone who could understand both the science and the history. From Japan to buried gold, Emma Culligan's path had been anything but ordinary. She didn't grow up following a polished, perfectly mapped plan. She didn't chase titles for the sake of appearances. She simply kept moving toward what felt right, even when it didn't make sense to others. Her early years were spent in Japan, speaking Japanese before she ever touched English. She didn't begin learning English until she was 15. Let that sink in. Most people have years to master just one language, and she switched gears fast, adapted quicker, and kept going. Now imagine diving into a field that demands not just intelligence, but focus, precision, and stamina. That's what Emma did when she pursued engineering. She first enrolled at Dalhousie University in Halifax, but something didn't click. She transferred to Memorial University of Newfoundland and didn't just stick with engineering. She added archaeology into the mix. Think about that combination. Engineering is all about math, structure, and measurements, while archaeology is about digging into history, culture, and the physical remnants of the past. She chose both. Why? Because Emma doesn't do easy. She does what challenges her. Her time at Memorial wasn't about simply showing up to class and passing exams. She worked as a research assistant in the archaeology department. She wasn't there to watch others do the work. She handled real artifacts, applied real methods, and learned by doing. She didn't wait for instructions. She got her hands dirty, literally. But it wasn't all trenches and lab work. She also worked in Calgary at a zoo, dealing with visitors and their questions. It may not have been glamorous, but it built her people skills, taught her patience, and honed her ability to explain complex ideas simply. After that, she interned at the Nova Scotia Department of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal. Public sector work isn't flashy, but it's where systems break, budgets tighten, and things still need to get done. That's where she learned grit. From there, she worked as a material technician at AMEC Foster Wheeler, pushing deeper into the technical world, materials testing, quality checks, and data analysis. If something was off, she had to catch it, and she did. Fast forward to 2018, she landed a role at Frontier Geosciences, finally finding a place where her love for engineering and archaeology could work together. This wasn't desk work. She was in charge of underwater sites, examining what most people never see, the world beneath the surface. She likely led excavations and analyzed metal artifacts that had been submerged for decades or centuries. That kind of work takes more than technical skill, it takes guts. Then came a twist no one saw coming. She joined a TV show. Not just any TV show, but one of the History Channel's biggest hits, The Curse of Oak Island. In Season 10, she joined as an archaeometallurgist, someone who studies ancient metal artifacts to determine their composition and origin. This is where science meets buried treasure. She worked with advanced tools like X-ray fluorescence and X-ray diffraction, machines that can reveal the exact makeup of an object, helping the team determine if it's rare, ancient, or from another part of the world. One standout moment came when she analyzed a lead object, breaking down its composition and offering insight into its possible history. Viewers loved her for it. She didn't lecture or talk down. She made hard science feel like a story. And off camera, she wasn't slowing down. Emma had a big idea, one most people wouldn't even dare to attempt. She wanted to create a worldwide shared database of artifacts, where archaeologists and historians could upload data on their finds, metals, pottery, tools, and match them to similar items across the globe. Imagine tracing a chunk of iron from Canada all the way back to a European mine. It was bold, complex, and ambitious. And she was already working with institutions like the Fortress of Louisbourg, Acadia University, and the Black Loyalist Heritage Society. This wasn't about fame, it was about making connections between the past and the present, about understanding where people traveled, what they carried, and how they built the world we live in. Her personal life remained quieter, but she was close to her mother, Shirley Harden, and deeply connected to her cultural roots. Growing up in Japan didn't just shape her language, it shaped her worldview. She moved through life with curiosity and respect, collecting perspectives from every place she touched. It would be easy to label Emma as a brainiac overachiever, but the real story is how she moves through life. No straight lines, no easy wins. Just a pattern of picking difficult challenges, showing up, learning the ropes, and doing the job well. She didn't chase the TV spotlight. The show came to her because she was good at what she did. She didn't ask to be a fan favorite. It happened because people recognized she was the real deal. While Emma helped make sense of the evidence, the island's long, strange past still loomed large, a hole that had swallowed centuries. Oak Island is one of those places that keeps dragging people back, even when it should probably just be left alone. A tiny island near Nova Scotia, Canada, it's treated as though it holds the